Hello and welcome to this episode of Pronunciation from the Psalms. As is our usual pattern, we'll be looking at a section from the book of Psalms and practicing sentence by sentence English words and phrases, focusing specifically on sounds within words and particular letters, as well as general English rhythm and fluency. Now you may be wondering, why do we choose the Psalms? Well, the Psalms are in the Bible and they are a book of poetry. It's Hebrew poetry, but one of the benefits of its poetic style are the short phrases that are very easy to just take and practice over and over again. And so today we'll be looking at Psalm chapter 6, and I have the whole amount of it just produced here for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read each line, and I want you to repeat after me at home. Now, what I'm going to do though is I'm going to overemphasize the letters so that you can clearly hear the sounds. And I want you to practice overemphasizing the letters as well. Believe it or not, it will help you as you try to learn the sounds, and it'll help your mouth have muscle memory so that when you're speaking normally, it will remember the right way to say things. After we go through the whole 10 lines here and practice each phrase one at a time, I'll go back up to the top and I will look at specific words and sounds that I know some of my friends who are learning English often have trouble with. Then at the end, I will read the entire thing all the way through with natural English fluency so that you can hear how it should be read. Okay, so without waiting anymore, let's go ahead and start. Let's take a look at sentence number 1 up here at the top. And I'll erase that for you. It says, so you repeat after me, O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. Line 2, be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am languishing. Heal me, O Lord, for my bones are troubled. My soul also is greatly troubled. But you, O Lord, how long? Turn, O Lord, deliver my life. Save me for the sake of your steadfast love. For in death there is no remembrance of you. In Sheol, who will give you praise? I am weary with my moaning. Every night I flood my bed with tears. I drench my couch with my weeping. My eye wastes away because of grief. It grows weak because of all my foes. Depart from me, all you workers of evil. For the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. The Lord has heard my plea. The Lord accepts my prayer. All my enemies shall be ashamed and greatly troubled. They shall turn back and be put to shame in a moment. Good. Let's go back up to the top. Let's start with the very first word, or rather the second word, oh Lord. So oh is just an exclamation, just bringing attention to the next thing that's coming, and it says Lord. Now I've covered this in previous videos, so I'll make it brief here. The reason why it's all 4 letters capitalized is because this is the personal name of God. Now, the original writers in Hebrew were hesitant to use the spelling of his name. It was considered holy. And so we carry over that carefulness into English by using the name Lord, or the title Lord, but capitalizing all 4 letters. If you see it in lowercase, that is just a title. Like sometimes you may hear kings and queens referred to as lords. However, in this case, it is the name, the personal name of God. So he's calling out, the author is calling out, asking, Lord, the one, someone he knows, a personal friend. And then he says, rebuke. Now, this is an interesting sound in English. It almost has like a you at the end of it, at the beginning of it rather. So rebuke, rebuke, rebuke. It's not book like rebuke, but rebuke. There's almost like a Y in there that's pronounced, but it's not said. Sorry, it's not written on there. All right, next one, wrath. Now this is a hard one because it has TH at the end. Wrath, wrath. Say it with me. Wrath, r. Now the English WR is pronounced very similar to a normal R. R. It's not quite as far back as in Chinese, like r. It's not that far back. And it's also not too far forward. It's like in the middle. R. So wrath, wrath, wrath. And remember, to pronounce the TH correctly, you must stick your tongue out through your teeth. So put your finger from your nose to your chin. When you say TH, you should touch your tongue to your finger. Wrath, wrath, wrath. That's a great way to practice at home. Another word here, languishing, languishing. Now, this word, this emphasis goes on the first syllable, lang. And often when we emphasize a syllable in English, we will elongate it and raise the tone. Not always, but many times we do. So languish, languish, languishing. To languish means to grow weak or to grow feeble. Your strength, your vitality is leaving you. So he says, be gracious to me, for I am languishing, me, growing weak. Let's practice this word, troubled. So 2 syllables, like a schwa sound, troubled, bold. Now that's a hard one, with your lips touching, but really hard after that is the l sound. Not quite l, you're not letting the air go, you're just saying l, almost like you're trying to say l, but you're not letting the air out. So instead of saying l, you just stop and go l. So trouble. I don't know if it's easy to see where my tongue is. Troubled. Your tongue is right up where, right behind your teeth, right before it gets to the soft palate. Troubled. So that tongue, the tip is making the L sound, and then it rolls right back up to make the D sound. Troubled. So you can practice that. It comes up several times. It comes up again here. Greatly, greatly troubled. Greatly troubled. Greatly troubled. Good. Not too many difficult words in here as it relates to some of the consonants that come in these next couple of lines. One I wanted to mention here is moaning. So moaning is like a scream or a cry, like a oh. So whenever you say moan, you don't want to say it like moan or anything like that. Moan. It's one syllable, mo, but you want to make sure it has a roundedness to it. Moan, O, O, O. Moan. Before you draw down to that N. Moan. Not like moan. You don't want to say moan. Moan. Push the air out through your lips. Good. Let's practice this. Another one with a OU sound. Couch. Now that's different from coach, like a soccer coach or a tennis coach, someone who helps you with something, leading a sport or training you in some way. This is a couch. It's like a long chair that someone is laying down on. So I drench. Drench means to soak with water. Drench my couch. So let's practice that. Drench, 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 couch. Now, one thing I want to mention about the CH sound in English is it's a little different than in other languages, especially in Chinese. In Chinese, you have the CH sound that would be at the front of the mouth, which is like a Q. And then you have the CH sound like in ch. So you have like qi. I'm just putting the letters after it. Qi and then ch. Qi is right at the front of the mouth, and then ch is more at the back of the mouth, right? The CH sound is almost right in the middle in English. So ch, not t or ch, but ch. Again, it's right where the back of the gums at the back of the teeth are meeting the soft palate. Ch, couch. So drench, j. The DR sounding almost like a J sound. Drench, drench. My couch with weeping. Weeping is heavy crying. Good. Just a couple more here I wanted to mention. A couple in that last sentence. Let's practice the word troubled again. So greatly troubled, 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 greatly troubled. And then the word shall with the SH sound at the beginning, shall, just a light L at the end, shall, shall, shall. And then let's practice here, shame, shame, shame. Good. And then this word, let's practice the rhythm for it, moment, moment, moment. And that really completes a lot of the words that I had noted here that may be helpful to you. But one thing I want to focus on in this video and continue to focus on is rhythm. Rhythm is almost as important, if not more important, than pronunciation. You can say all the words correctly, but if you're not doing it with the correct rhythm, there will still be confusion in your meaning and what you're trying to say. And the best place to start with rhythm when you're reading is punctuation. The punctuation is key. You want to circle maybe as you're practicing reading something, all your punctuation marks. I won't do it here, but what I just did, I won't do the whole thing, but what I just did is helpful because it gives your eye something to focus on to direct your speech where it should go. Specifically important are dashes, question marks, or other long pauses that ought to give you a pause in your speech. So another aspect of pronunciation is not just helping with the punctuation, making the language clear and understandable, but another aspect is thinking about the themes that are trying to be brought out in each sentence. So for example, saying, "O Lord," is meant to be an address. You're trying to get God's attention here. And then the sentence, "Rebuke me not in your anger." A rebuke is a strong correction. Think of it like a discipline, maybe, that you would give to a child. So a rebuke is a strong correction. He's saying, please do not rebuke me. He's saying, rebuke me not in your anger. So he knows that God is upset when he sees injustice in the world, and he's saying, please do not discipline me. Do not rebuke me because of your anger toward my sin, or because of the difficulties that are around me. In the context of this psalm, the writer is surrounded by people who are trying to hurt him, and things are not going his way. And not only is he being having difficult things all around him in his life, but then personally, he's feeling the sadness of it, and he's crying out and asking God for help. So that's important when you're trying to get people to feel what you're saying. You want to make sure you use your language and your rhythm to communicate that. So let me just read the first sentence as an example of this, and then we'll practice this as we do the rhythm later on. It says, O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. Now, if I just read it like that, you're missing sort of the meaning of it. Try this though. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. Do you see what I did there? I actually am communicating the meaning through the tone and the rhythm of what I'm saying, not just in the words. I'm crying out, O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger. Rebuke me not in your anger. It's almost like a request. You can hear it in my voice. That's important as you read too. So let me discuss the meaning of this really quickly and explain what's going on, and then I'll read through the whole thing with a natural rhythm and intonation so that you can practice and repeat after me at home. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. So the writer knows that God is looking down on sin, and he's looking at these difficult circumstances, and rightfully so, God is upset. He's angry at the injustice that he sees. But this person is writing out and saying, God, please do not direct your anger at me. But instead, verse 2, he says, be gracious to me. Grace is a disposition of love and kindness and benevolence towards people who do not deserve it. So he's saying, essentially, I know I don't deserve your love, God, but I'm asking you to please give it as a gift. Why? He says, because I am languishing. He is wasting away. His strength is being drained from him because of his circumstances. And he says, please heal me. So bring me strength again, O Lord, for my bones are troubled. Sometimes in English we'll do this when we talk about something in our bones. Oh, that makes me angry to my bones. The bones are the most rock solid part of our body. Firm, unshakable, right? So if we say something is bothering us in our bones, we're saying to the core of who we are, even the most rigid parts are being shaken, are being broken. So he says, O Lord, for my bones are troubled. Troubled in English is meant to communicate here problems going on. Maybe you're anxious, or you're sad, or you're lonely. Oftentimes we'll put many of those negative feelings under the umbrella of the word troubled. So we can say, I'm feeling troubled today. Maybe something upset you. Maybe something at your work was causing you difficulty. The word troubled would be used to describe that. It says, my soul, your soul is also greatly troubled. Then it says, but you, O Lord, long dash, how long? So he's saying he knows God is present. He's saying, Lord, you see all this and you're present. He's saying, but you, O Lord, kind of referencing the fact that God is here, he is able, but yet he seems distant. And so he asks, how long? How long will God allow this trouble to persist? It's a question. Then he says, turn, O Lord. He's asking God to direct his attention to him. Deliver my life. The word deliver is very important. Deliver, sometimes we think of it as like ordering food and bringing it to someone. Here, deliverance goes much deeper in meaning. It means to save or to protect. It means to take someone safely from one state or disposition to another. And so he's saying, Lord, look at my trouble and deliver me, protect me, specifically my life. So take my life as it is and bring me to a state of health and salvation and protection, because I'm not feeling it yet. And he says, save me for the sake of your steadfast love. Steadfast means unmovable, unchangeable. It remains firm. Stead, you could think of the word steady, meaning stable. Fast, actually, in English, Old English, we don't use it this way anymore, but to hold something fast means to hold it firmly, like grabbing it, grabbing it strongly. This is where we get the word fasten from. When you say fasten your seatbelt, the root word there is fast. So fast has other meanings that are related to food, but not here. So it says, for the sake of your unmovable, unchanging love. So he's saying, do this, act because of your love that you have for me. But then he says something interesting. He says, for in death there is no remembrance of you. In Sheol, who will give you praise? He's saying, act out of your love, but also, God, please act and save me so that I can praise you and that other people will be aware of your salvation. He says, essentially, God, if I were to die, if I were to waste away, then no one will remember what you did for me. So he's saying, save me that others will know about who you are, not just me. And then he says, in Sheol, who will give you praise? Sheol in Hebrew poetry and in the Old Testament refers to the place of the dead, where the dead go. And so he's saying that basically when someone dies, after that point, you can't give God praise on earth anymore because you're not here to do it. So he's saying, God, save me so that in my life I can proclaim your salvation to other people. Then very powerfully, verses 6 through 7, the author is talking about his emotions. He opens up to God and says, I am weary. Weary means very tired, very weak and tired with my moaning, my heavy crying. Every night I flood my bed with tears and I drench my couch with my weeping. Just poetic way to say he's crying a lot, very sad. Another way to say he's crying heavily. My eye wastes away because of grief. Grief is like a feeling of shame and sadness that comes over you because of your situation, whether it's something that you've done or something that someone else has done to you. You can feel a sense of grief, of pain, of loss. And it says it grows weak because of all my foes. So here he's saying that his sadness is being caused by circumstances around him, his foes, his enemies that are trying to do him harm. And so he's asking for God to strengthen him for this. Verse 8, depart from me, all you workers of evil, for the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. This is very encouraging. This reminds us that God is not just some far-off being, but he's personal, and he desires a relationship with each one of us. And he makes that relationship open and accessible to us. So here the author is saying, God, I know that you've heard the sound of my weeping, and he has faith that God has heard him, and it's in the strength of that faith that he commands all the workers of evil who are around him, those who do evil. He tells them to depart from him. It's basically saying, get away, for I serve God, and God has heard me. And he says, reiterates, the Lord has heard my plea. A plea is a request or an ask. Think of it very humbly, though. Imagine someone kneeling on the ground, just asking, pleading with you to do something. That's a plea. The Lord accepts my prayer. A prayer is just communication with God. In your heart, you can say it out loud, or just in your heart, in your mind, just asking God and speaking to him. That's prayer. So he says, I have wept, I have cried, and I have moaned, but I am not doing it alone. God is with me. He has heard my cry, and he desires to save me. And then it says in verse 10, all my enemies shall be ashamed and greatly troubled. So the enemies have been bringing him a great deal of trouble, right? The enemies have been causing him trouble. But he says because he knows God, and he knows that God will bring justice. Eventually, the enemies will be the ones who will be troubled. It is the enemies who will be ashamed and filled with grief, not him. And it says they shall turn back and be put to shame in a moment. To be put to shame is a phrase that means God will bring shame upon them. And so he says they shall turn back, meaning they will lose their power and influence. They'll turn away, and they will be put to shame in a moment. When God acts, when he brings his judgment, and when he finally saves this individual, he will shame them in a moment. You know, this reminds me a lot of what God did in Jesus. The whole world is filled with sin and with problems and with troubles. In our own hearts and lives, we have sin, things that we do wrong against God and against others, things that do not align with what God has for us. And God, as our Creator, has the right to tell us what is good and what is right. But we ignore Him, and as a result, our world is cursed with war and plagues and all sorts of effects of sin. But we have faith and hope only because God knew that that condition was hopeless. So he sent Jesus, who is his son, who came and was very God himself, to live a perfect life, completely righteous. And that righteous life purchased a righteousness that he then gives freely to anybody who confess that they are sinners and they turn to Jesus and ask for forgiveness. And when they do that, they believe that Jesus can save them and forgive them. They receive his gift of righteousness, and Jesus actually takes their sin debt on himself. And Jesus took that sin debt and he died on the cross in our place, bearing under the shame that we deserved. And when he died, he paid the full penalty of sin for us, so that anybody who believes in him and trusts that he is able to save, and that he was raised from the dead after 3 days in the ground, because he was resurrected from the dead. The Bible says anyone who believes that will be saved. It means you will be saved from your earthly trouble. You will be saved from the penalty of your sin. You will not have to pay the sin debt that you owe God on Judgment Day, because it has been paid by another, by God himself, Jesus Christ. Jesus means the one who saves, or God saves in Hebrew. That's his name. And Christ is just a title, meaning Messiah or chosen one. Jesus Christ was God's chosen method to save his people. So those who believe in Jesus can agree with the psalmist here and say, though I am troubled in this world, and though trouble surrounds me, God hears my cries, he hears my pleas, and he will bring me comfort. And even if I go through trouble in this world, I have hope that goes past this world, because Jesus promises to give me new life. And so that's what this psalm is ultimately about. And I hope it's helpful for you to think about that. And it's encouraging. If you have a problem going on in your life, you too can bring it to God. He listens and he hears you and he loves you because he created you. And he desires a relationship with you. And he wants to give you his love through the message of Jesus Christ. And so let me read this psalm for you, and then I'll read it with normal English intonation all the way through so that you can practice this at home as well. Let's read it. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am languishing. Heal me, O Lord, for my bones are troubled. My soul also is greatly troubled, but you, O Lord, how long? Turn, O Lord, deliver my life. Save me for the sake of your steadfast love. For in death there is no remembrance of you. In Sheol, who will give you praise? I am weary with my moaning. Every night I flood my bed with tears. I drench my couch with my weeping. My eye wastes away because of grief. It grows weak because of all my foes. Depart from me, all you workers of evil, for the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. The Lord has heard my plea. The Lord accepts my prayer. All my enemies shall be ashamed and greatly troubled. They shall turn back and be put to shame in a moment. All right, well, I hope this lesson has been helpful to you and encouraging. If you're interested in learning more about this psalm and asking questions about it in a live format, you're welcome to visit us on our website at intlconnections.org at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings. We have a live, well, it's not in person, it's on Zoom, virtual class where we discuss these Psalms, and we do it in English, so it's a great way to practice your English. But also, if you have particular questions about pronunciation or about the meaning of the psalm, we teach through this psalm and explain those words and meaning in greater depth. And so we look forward to seeing you at 10:30 a.m. I'm sorry, at 9:30 a.m. My apologies, at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday. And you can just click the link. It says join us. It's a Zoom link at 9:30 a.m. on intlconnections.org. And so until next time, happy English lesson practicing, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.